So the boys went ham on my Falcon on Friday and they've ripped the whole front end out. So literally all the front end's out. So this is all the 4-stud drum stuff. So that's all out. So I've got all brand new stuff. But we figured out that the steering box is knackered. Like I could probably still use it, but it's just a bit clunky. And it's actually like 5 spins lock to lock. So I think we're gonna upgrade it to an XF manual steering box. And then I'll make a collapsible column as well. So I'm like, I might as well just do it all while I've got it fully apart, because once the motor's in there, it's gonna be harder to do. So I'm gonna go to my favorite spot, pick apart. There's a couple of XFs down there, see if I can find a manual steering box and see if we can adapt it to this chassis rail. Apparently you have to re-drill and put new crush tubes in, but I'm thinking maybe can I re-drill and tap the steering box, get it in the right position. But I'll go get the steering box and the column and then we'll start playing around and see if we can make it fit. There's a will, there's a way. All right, so I got XF manual steering box, drag link, the whole setup, idler arm, everything, 90 bucks.
For jousting sticks, tell him he's dreaming.
I reckon that's a pretty good deal. So as you can see, this is the XL one here. So that's the drag link and that's where it goes onto the pitman arm. This one looks slightly wider. So I think we're gonna have to do something about that. Maybe re-drill and tap some of those ball joint holes to make it work, to get the geometry right. But I have, see this, I'm actually not really up with steering and geometry. I'm just trying to make it the same. The idler is gonna bolt on, but the steering box isn't gonna bolt on, so I might have to re-drill and tap, as I said. So I've marked the center line of the steering box. So I'm assuming if I can just get that same center line right, then that'll line up with the idler side and it should be all right. Gonna have to fuck this off, put a different one on or something. But I'm guessing that's the theory I'm starting with anyway. So if I can get that steering box mounted, you know, with the column obviously pointing up the way it needs to go and the pitman arm, the center line of the pitman arm in line with this line, give or take, I think it should work. Get the steering box out, column out, get this, knock this ball joint off, just try and mount that box I think and see what it lines up. I'm thinking drill and tapping. Then steering box, once that's mounted, idler, and then fill in the gap with this fucking drag link. I think maybe just give it a little fucking down the middle and yeah, because you can see it's a little bit wider than the OG one. Alright, so all the Friday boys give me a hand and we got the gearbox, steering box. It is a box with gears in it though, but it's a steering box, not a gearbox. Got that mounted up and actually managed to use the original mounting holes. So the holes were different on the steering box, but with a bit of drilling and tapping and ovaling out one of the holes, we still managed to use all the original mounting points, which have the crush tubes in there, so I don't have to really touch chassis at all, which is a big plus. So I'll show you how I've done it. So pretty well, this bolt, we used the original hole. This bolt here, we just had to elongate it slightly back, about half a hole back. And this one we re-drilled and tapped and used. So the XF actually has a larger diameter bolt, but the XL had a smaller diameter. The crush tube fitted through, the larger bolts fitted through the crush tube on the top two, but not on the bottom one. So I actually used the 3/8 bolt off my other steering box for that one. So that's the original hole and I just re-drilled and tapped it. So our center line is smack on. So the geometry should be right. So now I have the idler bolted up and I've got the steering box set in the middle, roughly. This is very rough, I'm just sort of figuring it out. I'm guessing, assuming it needs to be in line like that. I'm no expert here. So the idler wants to be roughly the same, I'm assuming. So that's where we are now. This drag link is fucking way too long. So in order for that to go on the steering box, this one is like well and truly over the other side of the chassis rail, so it actually doesn't have enough to get a turn in. So I think first up, I'm just gonna remove the drag link off here and just figure out where this idler has to sit, which I'm assuming is pretty well sort of straight, and where this pitman arm has to sit, which I'm assuming is pretty well straight. Then I'm going to measure between the pivot point at the back on both, and then get the front the same. And then I'll be able to work backwards to figure out how much shorter the pitman arm needs to be. No, sorry, the drag link needs to be. So for this one, I'm just going to have to split pin here, undo that and knock it out, and then we'll start doing some measurements. All right, so now I've got the drag link off. That was a bit of a bastard, but it's just sort of pressed off there. It was a bit rusty because it's obviously been on there for forever probably. Now that I've looked at it, I think I've figured out what I was missing before as far as the measurements, because I'll show you. Obviously this point on the idler and this point on the pitman arm aren't going to change. So obviously I think you want them parallel. So the two measurements should be the same from there to there, and from the end of the pitman arm to the end of the idler arm. So I'm just going to line them up now, get them square, and then once I figure out that back measurement, that should theoretically give me the front measurement, I'm assuming. So that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to line them up now, figure out the measurement, and then figure out how much needs to come out of the drag link. Alright, so the measurement between the pitman arm and the idler arm center to center is 610 mil. So therefore these have to run parallel, so it's 610 mil at the ends also. So that means I need to get the center, well, there, center to center, center to center has to be 610 mil. So I need to figure out how much this needs to be shortened, which I think is around about 100 mil. So let's do a rough measurement now. We've got center there to center there. We're looking at about 727. 727. So it's got about 117 mil has to get taken out roughly. Now the next step is figuring out how to get it done. So leave that with me and I'll see what I come up with.
Few moments later.
Alrighty, well I have got my drag link back. So I sent it off to Gearbox Corporation and they did it for me on the spot. So quick and easy, and they did a great job, and he was a really handsome guy as well actually. So that's all done. So now we can stick that in. I think we might need a little bit of adjustment on a few bits and pieces. Alright, so I have my drag link in, up to the idler arm. That's all looking pretty good. When I had the ball joints on, it was actually interfering with this cross member. But this cross member comes off for the V8 conversion and another one goes on, and it actually sits much further forward. It actually sits about here. So I think that is going to fix that issue. So next up, I think I'm going to pull this cross member off and the old engine mounts. So you just got 3 9/16 bolts on each side, and that's olden day for about 14 mil roughly. So you just want to get those. Yep, got it. Fell out. That's how easy they come out, they just fall out. So here are the bolts. I'll just chuck them in my rust converting solution. This is another video, which by the time you see this video would have already dropped. So here is the difference in the cross members. So this is the factory 6-cylinder, and that is the one for the V8 conversion. So as you can see, that one is not nearly as deep as that one. So that should rectify the steering issue. And then here are the engine mounts. So whereas these ones bolt on the front and sort of go forwards, these ones slip over that mount on the tower to mount the V8. Got everything laid out here, ready to go. Got lower control arms, upper control arms, shocks, spring mounts, springs, engine mounts, cross member. These are XF stubs with XF discs and rebuilt XF calipers. So all this stuff is ready to go into the XL. I've given it a bit of a clean. I'm like, fuck, who gives a fuck? I just want to drive it. So put the cross member in, and then I can start putting all the other bits and pieces in. So all the boys gave us a hand this morning. Got the control arms in, got the V8 cross member, so that literally just went in the same way as it came out. Control arms in, we're just leaving these loose. You don't really want to tighten these up until, you got the motor and everything sitting nice. Otherwise, you don't want to tighten the bush tight and then the arm moving and it'll just be fucking stuffing up. So I got the upper control arms in. So literally now I've just got to do the dreaded job, the springs. So I've had a look and I don't reckon the spring compressor is going to get in there. So I'm going to try lower the hoist down and stick the spring under the arm and just like compress the spring and then put some zip ties around it or something, or maybe a bit of welding wire, and then sit it up in there. Like, they are lowered springs, so they don't need a great amount of compression, but yeah, just the spring compressors look like they're going to be a nightmare. They're longer than the spring, so it's not going to work. So that's where we're at now, so let's do that. Tried the welding wire, but it just snapped as I was tying it up, so I've gone with the zippies. There's quite a few on there, like they're the proper, sort of kidnapper spec, so we'll see. Ripper. So you got to fucking take off and I'm handling it. Hopefully that is enough compression. But if not, I can always just lower the hoist on it again and retighten them. Dad's just removing all the tails off the zip ties. See how he's got his face just directly above it? So if it lets go, it'll just fuck him right up. So I've got the spring compressed in there, so now I need to cut in these. So really, I use a long blade, a little bit hanging out, so if it does, try not to smash my face off. You start going like that. They got so much pressure on them, they go pretty easy. They hold so much, so I can see if you get kidnapped and they put a couple of these on you, you're pretty well fucked. You're not getting out of them. Alright, one side done. Got stubs on, spring in, spring perch, got the shock in there. We will have to line that up later up top, but that's one side in. Disc brake conversion. The whole front end is in. So we've got XF stubs with discs and brakes off XF, XF tie rods, XF draglink, idler, and XF steering box. All been customized. So I'll talk you through, even though it was early in the video, I'll give you a quick rundown of all the custom bits and pieces that I had to do to fit that to the car. To fit the steering box, I had to give it a little bit of persuasion up here and a little bit of sanding just on the cast. This is an original bolt. This bolt here I elongated and still use the original crush tube, so that lines up with the original Falcon holes. And then this one here I drilled and tapped on the steering box. So I drilled and tapped that there on the steering box. So both original mountings and all original crush tubes. I had to take a little bit off the pitman arm here just to stop it rubbing on the chassis. Draglink. Had to take 117 mil out of that. How are you going to figure it out? Because every car might be a little bit different. But you want the measurement from here to here to be the same as the measurement from here to here. So that for me was about 117 mil. But for someone else, it may be different. For your car, it might be different. So that was pretty straightforward. Done the V8 conversion. Also tie rods. So I had to cut 10 mil off each one to be able to get some adjustment. Yeah, I've kind of just lined it up myself. I don't know if it's going to be straight or not. got it somewhere in a ballpark. So we've got some adjustment in and out. So that should hopefully be done. Other than that, these are 64 Mustang. They're king springs, like lowered. So with the V8, they reckon I should get another extra 20 mil. If you're curious, just send me a message on Instagram of any of the bits and where I got them, and I can help you out. These are XF, but most of this shit just come from the records. Like, I'm talking pick apart, steering box pick apart, draglink pick apart, idle arm pick apart, stubs and that pick apart. Like, it's just all shit from the records. Like, that whole conversion of that steering box, stubs, steering box, and everything, draglink, you're probably talking, that didn't even cost me $300. It's fucking pretty cheap. Now it's got way better ratio, and it's all late model shit. It's not, not adapting or XK to an XF ball joint and all this bullshit. Just all bang. And if I need anything, XF. So now it's got to do brake lines, finish off the columns, got the electric power steering down here, finish off that, or when I say finish, start that, and then we can probably drop the motor in, I think. But thanks for watching, guys. If you could like and subscribe, that would be shit hot. And if you've got any questions like about bits and pieces that I've done, you're doing it to your Falcon or whatever, just message me on Instagram. It's Rudy, RUDY__ Russo. RUSSO, Russo. Had to think about that, fuck. And I can point you in the right direction of any of the bits and pieces or whatever I did or had done. See you in the next one. Woo!